Parashat Beha'alotecha. After a lengthy stay in the Sinai desert, the people are about to begin the second part of their journey. They're no longer traveling from, but traveling to. They're no longer escaping from Egypt. They're journeying towards the promised land. The Torah inserts a long preface to the story. It takes the first 10 chapters of Numbers, talks about how people were counted, that they were gathered tribe by tribe around the tabernacle. It continues and discusses the order in which they're going to march, the preparations made to purify the camp, silver trumpets that are meant to assemble the people and to give them the signal to move, and then, finally, the journey begins. But what follows is a momentous anticlimax. First, there's an unspecified complaint. Then we read, the rebel with them began to crave other food. And again, the Israelites started wailing and said, if only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Also, the cucumber, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. But now, we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. There was something about this behavior of the people that induced in Moses what we call a breakdown. It is the lowest emotional ebb of his entire career as a leader. Listen to his words to God. Why have you treated your servant so badly? Why have I found so little favor in your sight that you lay all the burden on this people upon me? Was it I who conceived all these people? Was it I who gave birth to all of them? That you should come to me, carry them on your lap, as a nursemaid carries a baby? I cannot bear all these people alone. The burden is too heavy for me. If this is how you treat me, kill me now. If I find any favor in your sight, and let me not see my own misery. The cause of this distress is unproportionate. The people have done what they so often did before. Many times Moses has faced this kind of complaint. There are several such instances in the book of Exodus, including one almost exactly similar. If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate our fill of bread. Instead, you have brought us out into this desert to starve the entire assembly to death. On these earlier occasions, Moses did not give expression to the kind of despair he speaks of here. Usually, when leaders face repeated challenges, they grow stronger each time, and they learn how to respond, how to cope, and they develop resilience, a thick skin. They formulate survival strategies. Why then does Moses seem to do the opposite? Not only here, but throughout the book of Numbers. In the chapters that follow, Moses seems to lack the unshaken determination he had in Exodus. At times, as in the episode of the spies, he seems surprisingly passive, leaving it to others to fight the battle. At others, he seems to lose control and become angry, something a leader should not do. Something has changed. But what? Why the breakout, the burnout, the despair? A fascinating insight is found in the work of Professor Ronald Heifetz, the co-founder and director of the Center of Public Leadership in Harvard University's Kennedy School of Government. Heifetz distinguishes between adaptive challenges and technical challenges. A technical challenge is one where you have a problem and someone else has a solution. You're ill, so you go to the doctor. He diagnoses your situation and prescribes a pill. All you have to do is follow the instructions. Adaptive challenges, however, are different. They arise when you are part of the problem. You're ill, so you go to the doctor, and he tells you, I can give you a pill. But the truth is, they're going to have to change your lifestyle. You're overweight, out of condition, you sleep too little, and are exposed to too much stress. Pills won't help you until you change the way you live life. Adaptive leadership is called for when the world is changing. Circumstances are no longer the same. What they were and what once worked works no more. There's no quick fix for these things. No magical pill. No simple following instructions. We have to change. What's more, the leader cannot do this for us. He must inspire, but we have to follow through. The fundamental difference between Exodus and Numbers is that Exodus is about a journey from. In Exodus, Moses is called on to exercise technical leadership. The Israelites are enslaved, God sends signs and wonders, the 10 plagues, and the Israelites go free. They need to escape from Pharaoh's chariots. Moses lifts up his staff, and God divides the sea. They are hungry. God sends manna from heaven. Thirsty. God sends water from a rock. They have a problem. The leader Moses, together with God, provides a solution. The people do not have to exert themselves at all. The book of Numbers, however, is about the journey to. In Numbers, the equation has changed. The Israelites have completed the first part of their journey. They have left Egypt, reached Sinai, and made a covenant with God. Now, than their journey to the promised land. Moses' role is now different. Instead of providing technical leadership, he has to provide adaptive leadership. He has to get the people to change, to exercise responsibility, to learn to do things for themselves while trusting God, instead of relying on God to do things for them. He has to turn them to a people capable of creating a free society in their land. It is precisely because of this that Moses is devastated when he sees that the people have not changed at all. They are still complaining about the food, almost exactly as they did before the revelation at Mount Sinai, before the covenant with God, before they themselves have built the sanctuary, their first creative endeavor together. He has to teach them to adapt, but he senses, rightly as it transpires, that they're simply unable to change their pattern of response, the result of years of slavery. They're passive and overly dependent. They have lost the capacity for self-motivated action. As we eventually discover, it will take a new generation born in freedom to develop the strength needed for self-governance, which is a precondition to freedom. Adaptive leadership is intensely difficult. People resist change. They erect barriers against it. First is denial. We don't need to. Second is anger. Who is he telling us to change? Third is blame. It is his fault, not ours. That is why adaptive training is so draining. Many of the greatest adaptive leaders, among them Lincoln, Gandhi, John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Anwar Sadat, were assassinated. Their greatness was posthumous. Only in retrospect were they seen by their own people as heroes. At the time, they were seen by many as a threat to the status quo. Moses, with the insight of the greatest of prophets, intuitively sees all this, hence his despair and his wish to die. It is far easier to be a technical leader rather than an adaptive one. It is easy to leave it to God, but it is hard to realize that God is calling us to responsibility, to become his partners in the work of redemption. This is because Judaism is a faith for those who seek to change the world. That is unusual in the history of faiths. Most religions are about accepting the world the way it is. Judaism is a protest against the world that is in the name of the world that ought to be. To be a Jew is to seek to make a difference, to change lives for the better, to heal some of the scars of the fractured world. But people don't like change. That is why Moses, David, Elijah, and Jeremiah found life so difficult. Of course, the Torah does not leave it there. In Judaism, despair never has the last word. God comforts Moses, tells him to recruit 70 elders to share the burden of leadership with him, and he gives him the strength to carry on. Adaptive leadership for Judaism is the highest form of leadership. That is what the prophets did. Without relieving the people from responsibility, they gave them a vision of hope. They spoke difficult and challenging truths, and they did so with a passion that still has the power to inspire us today, but with devastating honesty. Never more so than in its account of Moses' temporary breakdown. The Torah tells us that adaptive leadership is not easy, and that those who exercise it will face criticism. They may come to feel that they have failed, but they have not. Moses remains the greatest leader the Jewish people have ever known. The man who almost single-handedly shaped the Israelites into a nation that will never give way to despair. Nowhere is difficulty of adaptive leadership more simply summarized than in God's words to Moses' successor, Joshua. Be strong and courageous, for you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. But you must be strong and very courageous, indeed, to faithfully uphold all the Torah that Moses, my servant, commanded you. The first sentence speaks about military leadership. Joshua was to lead the people to conquer the land. The second verse speaks about spiritual leadership. Joshua was to ensure that he and the people kept faith with the covenant they made with God. The first verse demands courage, but the second demands exceptional courage. Change always does. Such is the courage demanded of Jews, to step forward and make a difference, transforming lives and help healing the fractured world. To fight an enemy is hard. To fight with yourself is harder still. To help people find the strength to change, that is the highest leadership challenge of all. Shabbat Shalom.